Hello friends, welcome to Learning Physics. In the last class, we had learned how to derive the kinematic equations, and we also solved a numerical example based on the kinematic equations. Now to quickly refresh our memory, the kinematic equations are here in front of you. V is equal to V naught plus AT, X is equal to X naught plus V naught T plus half AT square, and the last one V square is equal to V naught square plus 2a into bracket x minus x naught. Now in this session, we will learn a few interesting cases which can be analyzed by using these kinematic equations. One is the case of the free fall. Second is Galileo's law of odd numbers. Third, a very common problem. You want to stop your car quickly when somebody is in front of you. How much distance it's going to take before it stops. And lastly, I will describe a simple experiment which you can do with your friend to judge your reaction time. Now, let us discuss the motion of an object under free fall, neglecting the effect of air resistance. Here is the Tower of Pisa, and the scientist Galileo did his experiments by dropping various objects from here. An object which is released above the surface of the earth accelerates downwards under gravity. The magnitude of this acceleration is g. If the air resistance is neglected, we consider it a vacuum, then the object is supposed to be in a free fall. Mind you, I'm not throwing the object with a force from the top. I'm simply dropping it. If the height above the earth is very small compared to the radius of the earth, then the acceleration due to gravity at the top here and the acceleration due to gravity at the surface of the earth can be taken to be constant, and that is how much? 9.8 meters per second square. Now free fall is thus motion under uniform acceleration. Now I have a coordinate axis here. There is a y-axis which I am calling in the vertical direction, and here is the x-axis. The place from where the balls are dropped, I call that as the origin 0. The y-axis is positive in the upper direction and negative in this direction. Since the acceleration due to gravity pulls everything downwards in the negative y direction, therefore, we can say that the acceleration due to gravity is minus g, minus 9.8 meters per second square. Now let us say an object is released from rest at y is equal to 0. Since it is released from rest, so the initial velocity v0, I can say it is 0. Now, do you remember the kinematic equations which I just showed you? I will again show you. V is equal to V naught plus AT, and the more generic forms are here. And in this case, if I put the value of g as minus 9.8, and since initial velocity is 0, so v is simply equal to minus 9.8 t meters per second. The second equation is here in front of you, and in this, if I put x naught as 0, I'm calling this as y naught because I have chosen the y-axis, and initial velocity v naught is 0, so that also becomes 0. So what am I left with? Half AT square. So minus half, why? Because g is negative, into t square. If I put the numbers, it comes to minus 4.9 t square. And the third equation, v square is equal to v naught square plus 2a into x minus x naught. Now again, if I put the numbers here, V naught is 0, so this is 0. 2 remains 2, and A is what? A is minus G. And X naught, what do I call it here? Y naught. Y naught is 0. So I am simply left with X, and that I am calling it as Y. So V square is equal to minus 2GY. So that is minus 19.6 Y. Now these equations give the velocity and the distance traveled as a function of time. So given the time, I can tell you what is the velocity or what is the distance traveled. It also gives us the variation of velocity with distance. Now using these equations, we can plot the variation of acceleration, velocity and distance with time. Now I have these three equations. I simply keep changing the time and I know what is the change in acceleration, what is the change in velocity, and what is the change in distance. Now let us see the variation of acceleration with time. If you plot this graph from these equations, you will realize that whatever is the time t, the acceleration is constant, 9.8 meters per second. On the horizontal axis, I have the time. On the vertical axis, I have the acceleration. Now, as the time is progressing, is the acceleration going up or down? No. So, it is a constant acceleration. Second is the variation of velocity with time. We have already seen the velocity time graph, isn't it? What does a straight line indicate about the nature of acceleration? It means that the acceleration is constant. And also this shows how velocity is changing with time. Now, what is happening here? The magnitude of velocity is increasing. See the numbers 10, 20, 30, 40. But it is in which direction? It is in the direction in the minus y direction. That's why this graph is here. Otherwise, it would have been like this had it been in the plus y direction. Third, I have the variation of distance with time. I have t on the horizontal time t on the horizontal axis and the distance on the vertical axis. This is the distance. This is the top of the Tower of Pisa and this is to the bottom here. Now in the first 1 second, the distance traveled is this much, say probably minus 10. In the 2 seconds, the distance traveled is probably 20 or 21 seconds. Similarly, at the end of 3 seconds, the distance traveled is more. See, it is not a straight line graph. It is a graph which is curved. So it shows that the distance traveled is increasing as I am increasing the time. Now let us, based on the last graph which we saw, we will see Galileo's law of odd numbers. Now, what did Galileo state after doing his experiments? He said the distance traveled during equal intervals of time by a body falling from rest. Here is a body falling from rest. Stand one to another in the ratio as the odd numbers, beginning with unity. That is 1 is to 3 is to 5 is to 7. That means in case I drop a ball from here, let us say in some time t, it travels this distance and I call it 1. In the equal interval of time, in the next interval, it travels 3 times this distance. In the next equal interval, it travels 5 times this distance. That is what this law states. This is shown here. See, I have got equal intervals marked here on the side. And for equal interval, here the distance traveled is 1. Here the distance traveled is 3 times. Here the distance traveled is 5 times. Here the distance traveled is 7 times. So, for equal subsequent intervals, the distance traveled is in the ratio 1:3:5:7:9 and so on. Now let us divide the time interval of motion of an object which has been released from here into equal intervals. Some interval called tau, say tau. This is tau again. This interval is tau again. The time interval is tau. Now we will calculate the distance traveled in each successive interval using our kinematic equations. Now what is the kinematic equation we'll use here? I want to find the distance traveled. So I must use a position. X is equal to x naught plus v naught t plus half at square. If I send this x naught here, what do I have? X minus x naught. And x naught is the, or y naught in this case, what I am calling. So that is the starting position. So x minus x naught or y minus y naught here gives us the distance traveled. Since initial velocity is 0, the second term here becomes 0. The starting position y naught is 0. So this also I can ignore. So I am only left with x and half at square. Only thing is, since I have shown it as the y-axis, I am going to use the term y here. So it simplifies to y is equal to half gt square. Now we will calculate the position y for time 0. So if I put time t equal to 0, what is y? Y is equal to 0. If I put t is equal to tau, then what is this? Half g tau square. And if I put t is equal to 2 tau, it becomes half g 2 tau bracket square, isn't it? So I can calculate it for each subsequent interval. So the position at time 0 is 0. The position at time tau is half gt square. And I explained to you the next one also. So now if I continue doing this, I calculate all this and put it in a table, right? Now let us see how the table looks like. Here is my time t starting with 0 time interval tau, 2 tau here, 3 tau, 4 tau, 5 tau, 6 tau. They are all equal intervals, isn't it? 2 tau minus tau is tau. So this interval is tau. 3 tau minus 2 tau is tau. So this is also tau. So these are all equal intervals. Now the first, what is the equation I am using? Distance is equal to half g tau square. So if I put tau is equal to 0, this is 0. And if I put tau is equal to tau, it is minus half. Why minus? Because in the downward direction, half g tau square. Now in this case, in place of tau, I put 2 tau. Now if I put 2 tau, the tau portion remains as it is, half g tau square, and 2 square becomes 4. Similarly here, the tau portion remains same as it is, and 3 square becomes 9. So I have got all these things tabulated here. Now I don't like to every time say half g tau square. I'll simply call this complete thing in the bracket with a simple letter s. So what is this? This is s. And what is the second item here? It is 4s. What is this here? 9s, 16s, 25s. These are all positions, mind you. They are not distances. Now let us see the distance traveled. Now what is the distance traveled in the first tau? S minus 0 is s. What is the distance traveled in the second interval tau? It is 4s minus s, that is 3s. What is the distance traveled in the third interval tau? It is 9s minus 4s, that is 5s. So I have got the distance traveled here, isn't it? So it tells me the distance 0s, 3s, 5s, 7s, 9s, 11s. S is common everywhere. So simply the ratio of distances is 1:3:5:7:9:11. That is what I have written here. Now this law was established by Galileo, who first made the quantitative studies of this free fall. Now this is a very important thing. While you are driving in a car, you suddenly see somebody coming in front of you and you apply brakes. But are you sure you are going to stop before hitting that person or before hitting that vehicle? We will just calculate that using the kinematic equations. Now, the distance a vehicle travels before stopping after the brakes are applied is called the stopping distance. Now, this depends on the initial velocity. If you are going very fast, you will take longer to stop, isn't it? And it also depends on the braking capacity. That is the deceleration. If your brakes are very good, deceleration is very, very good, then you stop in short distance. We will derive an expression for stopping distance of a vehicle in terms of your initial velocity with which you are traveling and the acceleration. In this case, it is the deceleration as you apply the brakes, right? Now let the distance traveled by the vehicle before it stops. Let this distance be ds. I want to calculate what is the ds. Now I use the equation of motion. Is there any time I'm worried about? I'm only worried about the distance. So which equation do I use? I use the equation v square is equal to v naught square plus 2ax. Correct? And note that the final velocity is 0. What is the final velocity? Here v. Why do I call it 0? Because that is the time the vehicle has come to a stop. So if I solve this equation, I will get the stopping distance. So by rearranging this equation, v naught is 0. So I simply have x is equal to v naught square upon 2a. Now what does this equation tell you? If your initial velocity is doubled, then the stopping distance increases 4 times. If the initial velocity is tripled, then the stopping distance increases 9 times. So, if you are traveling fast on a highway, keep sufficient distance from the car in front of you. The faster you are traveling, the longer the distance you need to have between your car and the car in front of you. Have you understood all this? Now, I had mentioned to you that I will explain a very simple experiment to judge your reaction time. Now, what is this reaction time? When a situation demands your immediate action, like you want to apply brakes to your car when somebody comes in front of you, but it still takes some time, isn't it? Now, the reaction time is the time a person takes to observe and think and then act. You can measure your reaction time by this very simple experiment. Now, take a ruler. Here is a ruler, isn't it? And ask your friend to hold it here. And you keep your fingers around the ruler like this. Don't hold it. And ask your friend to drop it vertically through the gap between your fingers. And as soon as it drops it, you catch the ruler. As it drops it, the ruler goes down and you catch it, isn't it? Now the ruler will travel some distance before you catch. You find the distance d traveled by the ruler. Let us say in this case you are holding it here, and by the time your friend left it and you caught it here, the ruler had gone down, and you measure the distance on the ruler, it is 21 centimeters. Now let us estimate the reaction time. Now what equation should I use to measure my reaction time? I have the positions on the ruler and I need the time. So I must use the kinematic equation which relates position with time. Now in this case, the initial position x naught is 0, I can say. The initial velocity, it was not thrown down, it was simply dropped. Initial velocity is v naught, 0. So this equation simplifies to distance d, which is x minus x naught, is equal to 0 because initial velocity was 0 minus half gt square. I can rearrange this equation because I'm interested in t, isn't it? I know d. So if I rearrange this equation, it becomes t square is equal to 2d by g. Now I can take square root on both sides. I'm interested in t, not t square. So if I take square root on both sides, I'll get t equal to under root 2d by g. Now I know g, 9.8 meters per second square. I know the distance, 21 centimeters. Now remember what I'm telling you. All the units must be matching with each other. The gravitational acceleration is in meters per second square, and the distance you have measured is in centimeters. So when you calculate, you must convert everything to meters. So if I put these numbers in the equation, it will look like this. T is equal to under root 2 into, instead of 21 centimeters, I have written 0.21 meters divided by 9.8. And if you calculate it, you will know that your reaction time is 0.2 seconds. Isn't it very interesting? I hope you have understood all that I have tried to teach you today. Please discuss these points with your friend so you remember them well. I hope you enjoyed today's session. I look forward to meeting you again the next time. Thank you and all the best.